Two people live on the same street, earn about the same paycheck, and shop at the same stores. One feels solidly middle class. The other feels like they're one bad month away from panic. They're not being dramatic. They're noticing something most of us miss. Middle class isn't just about income. It's about stability, choices, and how long you can keep your life running if the money slows down. In this video, we're counting down 15 signs that explain why most people who feel middle class actually aren't and what to do about it without hating your life. Number 15 is the simplest one, and it's why this topic gets messy fast. Middle class is a feeling, not a measurement. A lot of people decide they're middle class because they're not rich and they're not struggling in a visible way. They can pay the basics. They might even take a trip sometimes. They can buy small upgrades without asking permission from the calculator in their head. So they land in the middle by default. The problem is that middle doesn't tell you anything about your cushion. It doesn't tell you how much control you have over your time. It doesn't tell you what happens when life punches you in the mouth. If you want a reality check that's actually useful, start replacing the question, "What do I earn?" with, "How long could I keep my normal life going if my income got cut in half tomorrow?" Not forever. Not, "It'll work out." How long, really? That answer is a lot closer to your real class than your job title is. Next is 14. Your life looks normal, but it's held together by perfect timing. This is the kind of money stress that hides under the surface. The bills get paid, but only if everything hits exactly right. Payday has to land before the big bill. Nothing unexpected can pop up. Nobody in the family can get sick at the wrong time. The car can't make a new noise. The phone can't break. The buffer is basically hope and calendar tricks. A truly secure middle-class life has breathing room built into it. Not because people are better or smarter, but because their expenses don't sit right on top of their income like a lid on a pot. If your budget depends on nothing going wrong, then you're not living in the middle. You're living on the edge with a nice paint job. Now, number 13. You confuse cash flow with security. Cash flow is what comes in and goes out each month. Security is what stays when you stop working. This is where a lot of people get fooled, because a steady paycheck can feel like safety even when it's not. If your lifestyle needs your next paycheck the same way a phone needs a charger, you don't have financial stability. You have financial momentum. Momentum feels great until it stops. And it can stop for reasons you didn't choose. Layoffs, hours cut, family emergencies, injury, burnout, a company being bought, a whole industry shifting. Security is boring. It's money that sits there and doesn't ask for attention. It's options. It's being able to say no without fear. If you don't have that, you can still be okay, but it's important to name the difference. Lots of people with good incomes are not middle class in the way they imagine. They're high-income workers with low stability. Number 12, you think owning stuff means you're doing well, but most of it is owned by someone else until you finish paying for it. This is where modern life plays a sneaky trick. We see cars, furniture, phones, nice clothes, home upgrades, and we read it as they're doing fine. But a lot of that is financed. Monthly payments have become the default way to buy a lifestyle. It's not just cars, it's phones, it's furniture. It's little easy pay offers that feel harmless because each one is small. The catch is what happens when you stack them. A stack of small payments turns your future paycheck into a hostage situation. It also shrinks your choices. You can't take a lower-stress job. You can't move easily. You can't handle a slow month without falling behind. If you need payments to look normal, you're not middle class in the way people mean when they say it with pride. You're renting your image from your future self. Now, number 11. You don't have savings that match your life's speed. Most people hear emergency fund and picture a small pile of money for a flat tire. That's not the real issue. The real issue is that modern problems are expensive and fast. A normal life can throw big costs at you quickly. A medical bill, even with insurance, an urgent travel situation, a home repair, a legal issue, helping family, losing income for a few weeks, a childcare gap. If you don't have savings that can absorb a hit without turning your whole life into a crisis, then you're not stable. You might be functional, but not stable. A lot of people avoid thinking about this because it's uncomfortable. They tell themselves they'll figure it out if it happens. And they often do, by using debt. That's not a moral failure. That's what the system pushes. But it means you're not in the middle. You're in the one surprise away category, and that's a very crowded category. Number 10. You think you're middle class because you're not poor, but you're actually just not poor right now. This one sounds harsh, but it's meant to be honest, not insulting. There are people who are clearly struggling. There are people who are clearly wealthy. And then there's a huge group in between whose status changes depending on the month. They can keep up when things are normal, but their class is not a stable identity. It's a temporary condition. They're one event away from needing help. And what's wild is that you can be in this group with a respectable income. You can have a job people admire, you can be educated, you can do everything right, and still be financially fragile. The sign you're in this group is how quickly your emotions change when you think about money. If one big bill could flip you from calm to panic, that's not the middle. That's instability wearing a nice outfit. Now number 9. You're paying extra for convenience because you're short on time, and it quietly eats your budget. This is one of the most common traps for people who feel middle class. When your time is tight, you start buying time. You pay for delivery. You pay to avoid errands. You pay for quick options. You pay for services you used to do yourself. You're not lazy. You're tired. But the trade is real. Convenience pricing often includes markups, service fees, priority options, and tipping prompts that are hard to say no to. The scary part isn't one purchase, it's how it becomes a lifestyle. It turns your stress into a subscription. People miss it because each decision feels small and reasonable. The way to spot it is to ask a simple question. Am I paying for convenience because it improves my life, or because I'm overwhelmed and trying to survive the week? If it's survival spending, that's a sign your life is running too hot for your income. Number 8. You're stuck in the almost zone. Almost able to buy a home. Almost able to save. Almost able to pay off debt. Almost able to take a real vacation without guilt. Almost able to help family without stress. Almost able to handle emergencies without juggling. The almost zone is where people live for years, and it messes with your head because you're not failing. You're just never arriving. Here's what's going on. Many expenses scale up faster than paychecks do. Housing, childcare, healthcare, insurance, transportation, and even basic services can climb while wages lag behind. So you keep running, but the finish line moves. In this zone, people often blame themselves. They think they must be bad with money. Sometimes there are fixes, yes, but a lot of the time, the math is simply tight. Calling yourself middle class can become a coping strategy. It's a way to say, I'm fine. But if you're always almost fine, then you're not stable. You're just skilled at coping. You treat debt as normal, but it makes your future smaller. There's a big difference between using debt as a tool and using debt as a life support system. When debt is a tool, you can still breathe, you can still save, you can still change direction. When debt is life support, you can't imagine your life without payments. The reason this matters for middle class is simple. Real middle class stability includes the ability to recover. Debt slows recovery down. It turns every setback into a longer setback. It also changes your risk level. If you're always one payment away from trouble, you can't take chances that might improve your life, like training for a new job, moving for a better opportunity, or taking a break to care for your health. Debt doesn't just cost money, it costs options, and options are the real luxury. You think you're building wealth, but you're mostly building stuff. Here's a quick reality check that hurts a little. A lot of purchases that feel like progress are actually just consumption with better marketing. People buy upgrades and call it investing in themselves. Sometimes it truly is, but often it's just buying a nicer version of the same thing. A nicer couch, a nicer kitchen, a nicer car, a nicer wardrobe. Again, not a moral lecture. Humans like nice things. The issue is when nice things become the main way you express success. Stuff is expensive to buy, expensive to maintain, and hard to turn back into cash when you need it. Even when you can sell it, you often lose money, deal with fees, or waste time. Wealth is different. Wealth is what you can use without breaking your life. If you had to sell half your upgrades to handle an emergency, you'll learn quickly that upgrades and stability are not the same. Number 5, your benefits are doing the heavy lifting, and you don't notice until they're gone. Many people think class is about salary, but a huge part of stability comes from benefits. Health coverage, retirement matching, paid time off, disability coverage, parental leave, predictable hours, and job protection. If you have solid benefits, you can feel stable, even with a modest paycheck. If you don't, you can feel unstable even with a bigger paycheck. This matters because a lot of modern work shifts risk from employers to workers. People take gigs, contract roles, or flexible jobs and then realize they're paying out of pocket for things that used to be built in. Or they're not paying, which means they're exposed. That exposure is a class issue. Two people can earn the same amount and live totally different realities depending on what protections are attached to their income. If your stability depends on staying healthy and never needing time off, that's not middle-class comfort. That's a fragile setup. You're one rent increase, insurance jump, or rate change away from falling backward. This is where the modern middle class often gets squeezed. Many bills aren't fully under your control, and they can change fast. Housing costs can rise, insurance can rise, utilities can rise, loan rates can shift if you refinance or take on new debt. Even if your pay stays the same, your required costs can climb and suddenly your extra disappears. People blame themselves because they feel like they're spending more, but sometimes they're not choosing it. The costs are choosing them. The reason this pushes people out of the real middle is that stability requires slack. If you don't have slack, any change becomes a crisis. And in a world where costs move often, slack is not optional. It's the line between middle class as a lifestyle and middle class as a story you tell yourself to stay calm. You think your home makes you middle class, but you're ignoring the difference between living in a house and being able to afford a house. This is controversial, so let's say it cleanly. Owning a home can be a stabilizer, and it can also be a trap. If your housing costs leave you with no breathing room, the house isn't making you secure, it's making you stressed. People often underestimate the true cost of home ownership because the monthly payment is only the start. Repairs are real. Maintenance is real. Taxes and insurance can change. One big repair can wipe out savings. And if you're stretched thin, every repair becomes debt. Then the thing you hoped would build stability becomes the reason you can't build it. Also, a home is not a simple savings account. Turning home value into usable money can be slow, expensive, and risky. So yes, a house can be part of a stable middle-class life, but only if it doesn't consume your entire ability to save and breathe. You're middle class only as long as you can keep working at full speed. This is the one most people don't want to think about because it's scary and it feels personal. But it's not personal, it's structural. If you have no financial cushion, then your body and your mind are part of your financial system. Your health is your emergency fund. Your energy is your savings. Your ability to show up every day is your insurance policy. That's a lot to put on a human being. A stable middle-class life includes the ability to slow down sometimes without everything falling apart. It includes recovery time. It includes room for bad seasons. If missing work for a short time would create a chain reaction of late fees, missed payments, and scrambling, then you're not living in the middle. You're living in a high-wire act, and you've just gotten good at not looking down. And now number one. You think middle class means normal, but normal has changed, and the new normal is financially fragile. This is the hardest truth in the whole countdown. People keep comparing themselves to what they see around them. If everyone you know is juggling payments, stressed about bills, and still buying small treats to stay sane, it starts to feel like that's what middle class is. But if normal means fragile, then calling it middle class doesn't make it stable. It just makes it common. A lot of people are surviving, not building. A lot of people are employed, not secure. A lot of people look fine, not because they're fine, but because they've learned how to hide it and keep moving. The point of saying this isn't to shame anyone. It's to stop the confusion. Because once you name what's happening, you can make better choices. You can stop chasing the wrong signals. You can stop trying to look middle class and start trying to be stable. So what do you do with all of this? Here's the recap, tight and practical. First, stop using income as the main definition. Focus on breathing room and options. Second, watch your fixed costs like a hawk, because fixed costs decide your freedom more than your paycheck does. Third, treat convenience spending like a leak, not a luxury, and patch it where you can. Fourth, don't let payments become your lifestyle. Payments steal your future choices. Fifth, build a cushion in whatever way you can, even if it starts small, because the goal is to make life surprises annoying instead of catastrophic. And last, don't let normal trick you. Common doesn't mean safe. If this hit a nerve, that's not a bad sign. It just means you're paying attention. If you want, comment with this. What's the one thing that makes you feel the most not middle class, even when your life looks fine from the outside? Read other people's answers too, because you'll realize how many are dealing with the same pressure. Like the video, if you want more breakdowns like this, share it with someone who keeps saying, "We're doing okay," while quietly stressing. And tell me what topic you want next. Housing, cars, debt, or the cost of convenience.